There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am, of course, your host, Nick. I am the non-waving host of this podcast because I, three eggs, as they say. Yeah, I'm back. I'm no longer sick. I don't feel like I'm dying. And yeah, that's a good thing because we're here to talk what I would consider up there with Eye of the Beholder is one of the most famous episodes of not only TV, or I should say of not only the Twilight Zone, but of TV in general. It's pretty important to what made the Twilight Zone special. But before we begin, of course, we're on audio feeds like Anchor, SoundCloud, Audio Boom, all that good stuff. Once again, I told you guys earlier, thank you so much for filling in for me last week. Like I said, I thought I was dying. Triv, as you're aware, as you Jacob, I appreciate you guys filling in for that episode that apparently I liked better than you guys. I didn't realize I did that.
Yeah,
I thought
that's rare.
The one episode you're not on, and you're like, "Oh, I like that one more than you guys." You wanted to put it around 50 or something, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. But you guys made a lot of points that made sense. So,
holy shit, we make sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, until you guys start doing your egg talk, and Jacob said my points are not valid because I'm not here. That type of thing.
You know what, Jake? I'm gonna say this.
My
here
points
and now.
weren't valid when I wasn't here when you guys talked about our chance to dream.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I will say though, Jake, just between you, me, and Chris, I'm just gonna say it. I think that Nick is resurrected and came back as part devil.
Probably
because he's only eating 2 eggs today instead of 3.
I know, and he's not lazy.
Right. I only had
out in the field.
He's being very eccentric today.
I only had a.
Oh, this is excruciating. Is the yolk on us?
Oh my god! Shut up.
Are you cracked?
No, Oh my god! So usually I eat a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I only ate a single decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So you're probably right, Jacob. So
gasp.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far out there, come off as egotistical.
See, Chris, what happens when I'm not here for a week? It all hell breaks loose. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no reining them in.
Just got egg on his face.
Do you
but
feel
either
like
way,
a yokel?
Oh my god. But either way, thank you so much for filling in, guys. Dan, thank you as well. I know you're probably listening to this as well, so I appreciate it. Before we get into another thing, I do want to introduce our guest host that's on, because apparently I wait to do that forever before I introduce people. You have seen this gentleman on my channel before. We did of course, Indiana Jones, Raiders Lost Ark. I think you were on for another podcast I did at one point. But Chris from Movies and Munchies is here to talk this seminal episode. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I know you are very busy in your life and dealing with the heat and your channel, which is doing awesome. But yeah, it's much appreciative for you to come on.
Well, I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah,
you guys are weird.
Yes, we are. We are definitely weird.
My kind of weird, though.
That in mind, Nick, did you call this a seminal episode?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
he did.
God,
I didn't want to go there, but yes.
Oh, we go there. Go there, please.
See, we always joke that before Jacob came on, we were a nice Christian, well-to-do episode series. And then Jacob came on and brought all the demons and the mini sticks on the doors and lifted them up and let the devil out. No, I'm just kidding. No,
you're not.
Nah.
Look, you're the one that wanted to keep
the first few
everything
episodes.
PG.
You guys you'd all like, you weren't beeping things out, but you're like cutting out language and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, trying to like hold back stuff. And then I want to say like around 15 or something like that, you were like, fuck it.
Right.
Since then, we've gone to egg streams to, really.
Oh my God.
And now
I'm going to mute you.
And that was back during a time that I had a channel where I was probably overly foul mouthed. That's probably why my channel didn't grow. And now I have a channel where there's barely any language. It's all PG.
Yeah, that's why I laughed because what is that service? Patreon. You don't even use that phrase anymore. For your Patreon people anymore.
DMF.
I think it's pretty funny.
The
You're trying to be
top tier,
family friendly.
Maybe tone it down just a little bit. I did.
Well, that explains my channel then.
Yeah, definitely. So, Chris, I got to ask you, as I always ask every guest that comes on for the first time, because it's the first time you've been on this podcast. You love the Twilight Zone. That's obviously why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
You're picking this episode, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But what drew, like, as individuals like us, we were drawn because of like the marathons and stuff like that. You know, something that Rod Serling. I've actually watched a lot of YouTube videos recently of Rod Serling. That dude is smart as hell. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen these videos, but this dude like can take people to task. But with that said, as somebody who knows, you know, halfway decent stuff about the Twilight Zone, like, what made you like love this series? Was like, what's your favorite episode? Like, what takes you to this series? What makes you like it?
Probably part of it's nostalgia. I mean, because, you know, as a kid, I was watching these a lot. Not that old, but it wasn't the first time they were airing, I don't think. I'm quite certain it was not the first time they were airing because I was not alive then. But yeah, what I know now are the social commentaries. You know, I loved just that bite or that twist. And as a kid, I didn't totally get them all, you know, but some of it I would get. Some of it just creeped me out. And it was kind of like that foray into horror almost, even though now you look at it and it goes, it's not really scary or anything like that. But as a kid, you know, it definitely messed with me. I mean, the one, and I can't remember the name of the title, but the mask one that just disturbs, right? You know,
you talking about where the rich people were wearing the mask?
Yeah, and
it's just the mask, yeah.
So it's, I mean, beautiful. And now looking at it as an adult, I mean, the messages within so many of these episodes are just outstanding. I mean, before we even started, we were talking about where did the list go? The monsters come to do on Maple Street. Yeah, the tension that's on that one. And I love it. I love the storytelling. I love the short format of it. You know, that you're very creative in a short amount of time. You know, sure, you can tell a 2.5 hour story and then take your time and kind of get to the point. Here though, you got to dial in, focus, and get to it and scare your audience or make them think or disturb them or whatever. And yeah, these work.
Yeah, I kind of wish that CBS would have listened to Rod Serling during the 4th season, because it's funny listening to Rod Serling talk. Like I said, I went back and watched some YouTube videos of him talking on like whatever channels. He was on like CBS and PBS, stuff like that. And the one thing he says is he wanted to push the boundaries of TV because he feels stuff like The Fugitive was always spinning its wheels. You know, the original TV show like The Fugitive and Mission Impossible. And they never really dealt with the social commentary, as you've mentioned, about the Twilight Zone, and just the way he like was really really hard on the TV scope, because he feels like lessons can be learned while entertaining people. And it's just really fascinating because when you think about TV, especially today, it's a lot of serialized TV, but a lot of times it's Game of Thrones, which I'm not complaining because I love Game of Thrones and I love Lost and stuff like that. But as we talked about, I don't think there's a TV show that has ever gone this hard on dealing with like humanistic topics and stuff like that to this point. And I don't think anybody's done it since. And I think that's why Rod Serling is so famous for it. But that's why I'm glad you came on this episode, because, you know, this is like the Eye of the Beholder and the Invaders and Monsters That Do on Maple Street and stuff like that, where it really has an interesting message behind us as a human being and stuff like that. And as we say, you know, this episode, you know, I know Jacob, I'm pretty sure you know this episode pretty well too yourself. So I mean,
never heard of
it. Never.
Wait, were we supposed to watch this beforehand?
Ah, damn it!
I thought we were watching it now.
That's what I thought. So
okay. Watch party.
I mean, I can send you the Idiot's Guide to Twilight Zone if you want. You can do that real quick.
Definitely need that. I need anything I'm doing.
Yeah, it's most of us.
Oh man. So oh yeah. Before we actually do that, I do have to say, and I told you, Chris, already. Last week technically was our 2-year anniversary on the podcast, but I
Really?
wanted to bring it up. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. But yeah, no, we started the first episode actually, ironically, the day we were recording was it the day we were recording? I can't remember anymore. Anyways, like in the span of like either the last week or this week, whenever we recorded, was our 2-year recording about the first episode of our podcast, which Trev, I don't know how you feel about 2 years with me, talking with me, and Jacob, you've been almost 2 years now, and
Nick, you don't look a day over 84.
so I'm still 83 and a half. I'm not 84 anymore.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I just want
It's grown on me. It's grown on me. Kind of like a cyst.
we just can't get rid of it.
Cancer cyst that really digs in. It's
Oh, God.
grown on me.
And that cyst is per chance to dream. It just won't
God.
go away.
Cancerous cysts in your groin. That's just there.
Right.
You know what? You guys are mushrooms to me. You're both really fun guys.
Ah.
God.
Oh, that's excellent.
You guys are
You
getting
guys
on
want
my
to start dad jokes again? Hang on.
You guys are excruciating.
jeez. The yolk's on
no,
you.
but yeah. No, but in all honesty, seriousness, like this is the longest thing I've ever done outside the YouTube channel.
That's what she said.
I Jesus Christ. I appreciate you guys being on for this podcast. I know it's a, as Chris knows, because you still do. Do you still do a podcast too, Chris?
I do. Yep.
Yeah.
Weekly.
So
Nice.
the commitment that it takes to do a podcast, and I've learned in the last 2 years that you have to find the right people to do a podcast and be committed to it, because it's a very, I'm pretty sure the three of us, and Chris and yourself would rather be doing something else with like going visiting, like, I don't know, fun places like the beach or something like that, but we do it because we love doing it and it's entertaining, but it's definitely a lot of work. So that's why I'm always appreciative when you guys come on and 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night to do this. And so either way,
Dude,
thank you guys.
The closest beach to me is like 4 hours away.
I don't know what you go visit
way too
the
far.
Field of Dreams house. I travel like an hour to Cocoa Beach and it's like there. So, but no, either way, thank you guys for the 2 years that we've been doing this, and we're going to do it however long it takes.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to the next 17,000 years, however long it's going to take to, get through all these.
Especially season 4.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Been fun.
You guys are the sir to my ling.
Oh my God.
The yin to your link, or
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I see what you did there. It's not what I did. I didn't do that.
Together we make a Twilight, scary door sandwich.
I'm trying to. See, if I wasn't on this week, it'd be like
I'm crashing and burning.
God.
Yep.
Yeah. See what happens when I come back on? It crashes. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways.
Shush. I will come over there and I will take your mother out for a really nice steak dinner, and then I will not call her the next day.
Yes, she won't.
You do that anyways.
She does
You
that.
don't even have to threaten me.
I'll take your mother to McDonald's.
There you go.
That's it.
All right. So either way, guys, it's been fun. 2
Big Mac.
years. I hope hopefully for another whatever more years we do this thing. So anyways, with that said, we're going to be talking about a seminal episode, like I said, season 3, episode 24. It's called
said it
To
again.
Serve Man. Yeah, I know I did.
Were you really excited about this episode?
I was
really excited.
No, but I mean, this is an episode that everybody knows, which is season 3, episode 24, To Serve Man, which is directed by Richard L. Bear, written by Rod Serling, based off a short story from Damon Knight. Production code 4807, air date March 2nd, 1962. Stars Lloyd Bochner, Richard Kiel, Susan Cummings, Joseph Ruskin, Hardie Albright. Okay, so the Disturbed Man is, once again, it's up there with Eye of the Beholder, it's up there with The Invaders, it's up there with Time Enough at Last. It is the episode that usually will be the starting point for a marathon, or will be the concluding point for a marathon, because of how important and how it handles itself. And
Seminal.
I'll start with you, Chris.
Yes.
What?
He was just talking about the
Whatever.
It's
climax.
just
Yes.
Oh. So, Chris, I'll start with you on this episode. You, I asked you which episode you want to come on. You said, you wanted to come on Disturbed Man. We talked about this a while ago. How long has it been since you watched this episode? And do you remember a lot about this episode even before watching it again? I guess that's the easiest way to put it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. I don't even remember the last time I had seen it before rewatching it. Probably I may have caught a clip here or there or something when, like, maybe my kids were watching, a marathon or something, but it had been forever. And then I rewatched it last week, and then I watched it again today. And just, because it obviously there's a lot in there that I missed, I think, even on the first rewatch.
Mm-hmm. It's a
What
juicy
about
one.
you guys?
It is.
Yes, it is. It has a lot to say. It really does. But what about you guys? What about you or Triv and Jacob? Actually, let me go to you first, Jacob. I know it's been a while since you watched these episodes, but do you remember this episode pretty well? Like, do you remember the idea of what it was doing? And
yeah, like Chris said, I watched the Twilight Zone a lot when I was a kid. Pretty sure it wasn't new then, it was 80s. But but then when I picked it back up and when I decided to watch them all my own little marathon, like late 90s, early 2000s, this was one of the it was actually this and our number one.
Eye of the Beholder.
Eye of the Beholder.
Eye of the Beholder. I think I picked him up on TV when I was around 20 in the late 90s or early 2000s or whatever. And I saw him and I said, hey, I want to rewatch all that. And so it was this one and that one that really spurred me on to go on that trek. But I haven't watched it since then, but I remember it very well. It was really, it was a seminal Twilight Zone. No, it is quintessential Twilight Zone though. This is like
Good word.
When I think Twilight Zone, this is one of the first ones that my mind goes to. Even though Invaders is my favorite episode, this is probably the most Twilight Zone-y of all Twilight Zone episodes in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it takes up a lot of mind space there.
What about you, Sheriff?
So I mean, kind of what you guys said, it hits so many great notes. And when Nick and I were talking beforehand, it kind of does something kind of unique. It takes, because it is one of those episodes where it is instantly recognizable and it has been parodied in pop culture so much over the course of time. But it's one of those, unlike ones like Time Enough at Last, it holds up underneath its circumstances. And not to say Time Enough at Last doesn't, but this does it so much better in my mind. And it just, you come in and you're hit in the face with, the main points you're supposed to take from it, but then there's so much more. It's a full enchilada. So.
Yeah. I think I think what helps it too is it's not a very complex episode. It's just an episode with very humanistic characters, people that are actually well written and actually make a lot of sense. I mean, we've talked about a lot of Twilight Zone episodes where the characters are just full on stupid, or they're idiots, or they're just not well written. And here we got characters that actually have logic to their reasoning, as we'll talk about, like the military men. They're skeptical as military people would be. And you have, the normal people who are just they're doing what normal people would do. They at first they freak out, and then, as we do, and as they talk about, humans are very trusting sometimes of, things, and it comes back and backfires on them. But I mean, I don't know. It's an episode that it does hinge on its ending, but it also hinges on the fact that it allows that twist to kind of slowly eke into the story. And I don't know what you guys think about that as well, because especially with you, Chris, unlike us who have seen a lot of the episodes recently, the episodes you can remember, like this one, does it make it that more impactful to you than it would say, you know, something like last week's episodes, The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank, which I'm sure you've seen at some point, but don't remember very well. Like how does that affect you and the nature of like how an episode is told? Because, you know, a lot of Twilight Zone episodes you have to rewatch to remember. So
I like that the twist is held from us for quite a while, even though all the information is given to us right up front. You know, and that's something that I actually noticed on my second rewatch. I mean, you know, they talk about as the alien, you know, the Canamet is there, talking about, hey, we can help you repopulate your crops, and we can then protect you, and all these things, which sounds like very benevolent beings, right? But then once you get to that twist, you look back and you go, oh, well, see, it's separating all of the warring little pigs, and then we're going to make them fat and happy. And so then they're going to believe that we're all good to go, and they're just going to follow us around, you know, and that's when it just, oh, wait, what? Crap.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of in Mars Attacks when they're attacking all the people and they're saying, we're here to help you survive, and they're killing everyone. But
say it is like very much truth from a certain point of view. You know, if you look at the alien perspective, they might say, we are doing all of this good for the time that we want to keep you alive. You know, for as long as you live, you'll be happy and prosperous and peaceful. But that doesn't necessarily mean like the agenda and like that. It's like that cultural change of understanding, you know, what you say in one culture versus what you say in another are two very different things.
Well, it's very much like livestock here. You have people that have the humane farms and stuff like that, where they, you know, they make the animals, chickens, cows, things like that, their food. They make them, they allow them to have like nice, plentiful lives, and then they harvest them. I look at it kind of like that. I don't think these aliens are thinking they're doing anything bad. They're like, oh, we're giving them a better life than they could ever have, and then we're going to eat them.
Yeah. And I mean, I got to ask you guys this question. So the first question I have for all of you guys is, you know, Chris, especially, you know, Rod Serling does like a monologue at the end, opening and ending. Am I the only one that thinks that he shouldn't have done an opening narration? That he should just let the main character do the narration, the voiceover? Or do you think the character that we are the main character, in essence, the main character should have not done voiceover and should have been Rod Serling? Like, what do you guys think about that? Because it's not done. It's hardly ever done in the Twilight Zone where the main character has a voiceover narration through most of the episodes. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? I thought that was kind of fascinating.
I kind of looked at this thing sort of like Sunset Boulevard. You know, you have the narration of your main character, and then you have kind of that outside perspective. I know that Rod Serling is kind of like guy in the sky kind of a deal, but I appreciated that just because you do need that second perspective. Otherwise, I think it would have given away too much about the actual what was going on.
You know, the narration wasn't originally in the episode.
Really?
The guy's narration.
Was it not?
Oh, really?
Oh,
They reshot this episode. This episode was shot twice, and they put the episode together from both shoots. Because when they first shot it, Serling looked at it and he said, "This is terrible. I don't like it." And he went on vacation. He rewrote a bunch of stuff, rewrote a lot of dialogue, and they reshot something like 75% of it.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And then he went on vacation and came back, and he was like, "Yeah, I like this more." And the character's narration in the beginning and the end was part of the reshoots.
I was waiting for the big joke at the end. I was waiting for
really,
you, like,
that's the truth.
No, I believe you. No, I was just like, I'm sitting here listening to you talk, because you've done it before where you gone into like a spiel, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
what's the punchline? But no, yeah, it's kind of interesting because
this is true.
Was this the precursor to Blade Runner? Is this why Ridley Scott's like, you know, I love that To Serve Man, so I'm gonna put Harrison Ford narration and piss everyone off? And
absolutely, probably. I think that was
damn unicorns.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode, like, and I'm surprised that I only know this because honestly, I just happened across a while back a channel that I cannot remember the name of them or I'd say it, but they did a retrospective on this episode, and they told about the whole deal, about how they reshot the whole thing and all that, and just changed it all up. It's not in. I'm looking here right now, and there's no mention of it for like usually when we see like trivia and stuff like that, you'd think that would show up, but it's not. So yeah, that narration, I did think that too when it first started and this guy was narrating. I was like, is Rod Serling not going to have a narration now since this guy's narrating?
Yeah, Jacob's like, I have a week off, thank God.
No,
They did do kind of
he
an
did hit
interesting
it.
thing though, because you do have, both of their narrations at the beginning and at the end. And it is actually the only episode in the series where someone other than Serling directly addresses the audience.
But not original.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think it's fascinating because it allows us, the viewer, to get some sense of like, there's something, because we can gather from when this episode opens and when the ship lands and Richard Kiel, also aka Jaws, comes into the mix, and there's something off about it. Like there's something weird about it. It's something that Richard Kiel himself is able to provide. Just this kind of, he almost looks like he's like a mute in a lot of respects. Not discounting, people can't talk or hear or anything like that, but there's just something really off-putting, and it really, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like the narration just adds that level of tension that helps the episode just kind of move forward and move to this kind of state of like uncomfortability. And I'm kind of curious of what you guys think about that, because as we've seen before, and like the Obsolete Man, like it just, there's something always foreboding. I don't know the best way to put that, but like, I mean, what do you guys think about like the idea of just like using that narration as like a foreboding, and just how it's kind of set up and how it tries to make us feel good, but we always know there's some underlining like uncomfortability to it? I guess easiest way to put it. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think narration, I mean, in so many different things, I mean, it serves some wonderful purposes, I mean, like in noirs, it helps set up, what's going on. It puts us instantly into the story without having to necessarily show it, which can be lazy. For this, though, I think because it's a compressed runtime, you need to get us into the story. You need to get us into what's going on faster. And so I think it's, an introduction, getting us right into it. But with Richard Kiel, I mean, he's already an imposing force, right? He's a towering hulk of a man. And then you add that prosthetic thing to his head, and he becomes even more so. And I think by having him only look at people and hear his voice that way, I think it plays into the fears of people, that there's mind control, or that somebody could read my thoughts, that they could understand what's going on in my head without me having to say it. And it just invades all kinds of privacy. And, that's scary. And it's also, as we saw, I mean, gosh, in the, the late 50s and stuff, I mean, that became, the blacklist or whatever.
Very much.
For the,
you think if he had a nail stuck in his head, he'd be fine? Like it would have been make a lot more sense.
That just makes him more of a badass, really.
Yeah. He's gonna beat up Christopher McDonald.
Everybody would just be confused.
That's why he wears the prosthetic, to hide the nail.
Right. I mean, what about you guys? What about you two? What do you think?
Honestly, when you first see him, and obviously he's not meant to look bored, but he looks like he's just going through the motions. Like people are like, oh my God, there's this crazy alien. But he's just like, yeah, let's see, what is the script? Greetings, humans, let me make your world better, blah, 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 blah. Like, and I think it's more like he's meant to be intense, but it comes off as boring. But I think that, or he's bored, but I think that works within the story.
I thought he looked special. I mean, I hate to say it, but the whole time he's like like that. And but there's a reason he looked that way. He was actually
he's 7 too.
Well, no, he was exhausted because he was apparently going between this shoot and a movie called Iga.
Oh, Iga. That's that's
whatever.
such a fun movie. It's a MST3K classic.
He was shooting both of them at the same time, and he was driving between them and getting no sleep. And he said of his performance in this episode, he said it was terrible. I'm surprised they kept it on. And he actually did the original voiceover, but they didn't use it. He said, I don't blame him because it was terrible, because I was just worn out and exhausted. So that's probably just him like, I'm about to fall asleep, looking like that. But
it's funny. I
thought it worked though. I mean, he looked odd. I mean, he's very big. And they've added an extra 2 feet with the head and the lifts and the shoes and all that. He's already 7 foot something, but he looks alien. I mean, they put the head and everything, but and just that look of kind of, I don't know, like Triv said, it's either boredom or just kind of like not totally there, just made him look even more alien.
Well, and the simpleton aspect of it, like, disarms everybody else, right? So then you don't expect anything nefarious coming from him. You don't think that this guy could even come up with a plan that would be bad for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
because
only
like
time you see any emotion from him, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, is when in the end, if you notice, they're putting people on scales before they get on the ship.
Yep.
And he's grabbing them, and he's like, oh, "You're a chunky boy. Get up there and first class."
The best part about that segment, and it's one I'll kind of leave it short, is like the guy that he has like that he's like a rich guy, or he has like special access or whatever, and he's just eating the food. He's like, we're going on a trip, and he's just eating, and you're just like, oh my god, I know where this is
the
going.
Russian ambassador.
Yeah. But
comrade, I get first class here.
Diplomatic immunity, bitches.
Yeah.
Right. This episode is actually this episode of Twilight Zone is so important that it actually was one of the first segments of the Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons. Is the one where the Simpsons mistake the Kang and Kodos for being the aliens. And instead they were making food like just to give them as meals and stuff like that, and it's really funny. But you guys should watch it if you get a chance. But
Nick loves the Treehouse of Horror. I think
I do love.
You reference something to it every week.
Well, yeah, the Shinning's like, there's so many great stuff that reference back to the Twilight Zone. So
Richard Kiel actually played every single alien in this, and there's a shot where he's like, they did a split screen thing because like he plays both of them.
Mm-hmm. When they're both standing there near the end.
Yep. They're all like Nanu.
Right after that cut from has this weird time jump from when they're talking about, that was my only issue with the episode, by the way, when they're sitting there talking about, she's going to write her book and all that. And he's like, well, I'm on a 10-year waiting list and blah, 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 blah. And then it kind of fades and he's getting on there. I mean, I blinked. I was like, did I miss something? I rewound it. I was like, no, they just, I guess, had a time jump.
No, they were like, we want this for season 4, and Rod Serling's like, nope, take out the 10-year cut. We're gonna leave it 24 minutes.
Cut. Which was the original ending, by the way, when he shoved the guy up inside the thing. It was supposed to end there.
Interesting.
Was it?
Yeah.
I kind of like that better because it's more of a violent ending.
Yeah.
It's
and it is the first show of force that you get from the aliens, because everything up until that point, like, they hadn't touched anybody really.
Other than to maybe escort them and help them up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's why I kind of like how this episode runs, because I don't think they meant it to, like, for the layman idiot people that they thought were watching the Twilight Zone or whatever. I think they put it in there because they wanted to bookend, shut up. But no, I think it's actually a pretty decent book. I think it would have been cool to have that ending because everything that you need to know is given by her at the end of it. But I do like the fact that at the beginning of this episode, you're given clues to, not trusting these aliens, which is a really fascinating thing, because usually with the Twilight Zone, they have the setup, which here we have a guy named Michael Chambers, which is the Lloyd Bochner, who actually, I don't know if you guys know this, he actually reprised the role to do a joke in Naked Gun 2.5.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I thought was,
apparently
they did it to serve.
Remember what it was.
Yeah, apparently it was to serve man.
I've got that.
Oh yeah, that movie's great.
CDI.
Is that the one with no, that's not the one with Ricardo Montalban. Is that the first one?
That was the first one.
Well, I don't know.
The Queen was there too. Wasn't she?
She's in all of them, isn't she?
The Queen?
Queen, yeah. Well, I don't know if it's really her, but someone.
No, it's not. But
with that said, like, we're introduced to this guy who is like on a ship. We have no idea why he's on the ship, and we know by the end, but we really don't know why he's on the ship. And then he goes into a voiceover about how we should never trusted these people, and it's the idea of like not got his
speaking of voiceovers.
Yeah, the narration comes like 5 minutes into the episode. It comes a while into the episode.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh, we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about like the United Nations and how the rat race and everything about culture and how we're too trusting and then we're too fearful, and it goes into all the the way the human race is in our nutshell. And then of course the flying saucer comes in, similar to like what Day the Earth Stood Still or something like that. And
It's actually footage from another movie.
Yeah, it is.
That Ray.
Yeah, it looks like something out of like Doctor Strangelove or something. Like
well,
that's how the footage looks.
There's a couple different things. So the long shots of the saucer come from the Day the Earth Stood Still. And the Secretary General directly inspired the famous broadcasters who appear in The Day the Earth Stood Still, which that came out in 1951, just not that long before, about 10 years before this.
So yeah, that's why, like, it honestly, if this weren't like a serious episode, it feels like in line with what Stanley Kubrick shoots in the 60s, like the way he shoots footage and stuff like that. It really has a like documentarian feel to it, almost a little bit. Like, this is what the world is like before the Kemenite? How do you say the fucking name? Kennemite. Yeah, which I don't know if you guys noticed, sounds very familiar to another word called cannibal. I don't know. I don't think that was what it was intention, but if you think about it, yeah, Kennemite,
I'll allow it.
Cannibal.
Oh, one other interesting piece of trivia too. The spaceship landing next to Newark, New Jersey, was kind of was inspired by War of the Worlds, the original radio broadcast with Orson Welles, where it landed in Grover's Mill, which I looked it up, was an hour away from Newark.
Mind blown.
I feel bad for them for landing in Newark because I've been to Newark and that airport sucks.
That's how they decided to start eating people.
All this stuff leading up to Rod Serling's narration. What do you guys think about it? Like it's there's a lot of foreboding going on. There's a lot of people walking around, and then the ship shows up. I mean, we talk about how like the series sometimes has a problem with going either too quickly with this, like its overall story, or taking too long. But all this stuff, like what do you think about it, Chris, or whoever wants to go? Like, what do you guys think? Like leading up to the Richard Kiel's introduction.
I don't know if it felt rushed, at least to me. I mean, watching it.
Well, I meant like in general, the Twilight Zone has a habit of doing that. We talk about it on the other. I'm just like how do you think about like where this first act, like all the stuff was leading up to, and
as the reveals come and stuff? Yeah,
like when Richard Kiel shows up and stuff like that.
I don't mind that part of it. I do think the next sequence that we see with him going into the UN and the UN discussions and these types of things, those happen pretty quickly. I thought they were more, or at least I took them to be more like just these little snippets that were just fast forwarding a little bit in time each shot, so that we could move towards what we're trying to get to, which is the point of fat and happy people getting on spaceships to be lunch.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
What about
I would take a flying jump at the moon at this first bit.
Would you know?
Yes. Sorry, it was a line from one of his first.
No,
lines.
yeah, I was waiting for we have a lexicon or sexicon list that has like all these like phrases that the Twilight Zone has said. There's some pretty interesting stuff.
They pull out some other good ones later too, but I'll wait with
looking
that.
at gift horse in the mouth.
But no, it was. I think overall it worked well. It introduced you, it gave you what you needed to understand the ins and outs of the episode. Again, you could question whether Rod Serling's is needed, but I do think that it gives you that third person perspective to kind of say, okay, this is what this guy is saying. What do here's where we're going. Blah blah blah.
What you, Jacob?
Oh, that was cool. I didn't feel like it was rushed. I just felt like it was evenly paced, and it was giving us the information we needed to set everything up. I was interested to see what's up with these aliens, what's going on. I mean, it wasn't like, it was very even up until, up to that first little bit there.
Yeah, because you're usually the one that points that stuff out about like the pacing of the first act versus the second act. And I'm always curious, like, because you usually can decipher whether it feels like a good episode or not. So I'm curious of what you.
I mean, overall, if we're just the beginning, I thought was even giving out the information we needed. I think the whole episode's like that. That's one of the good things about this episode is it never drags. It's not like a super exciting episode. There's not like lots of action or anything. A lot of it is just people in rooms talking, but they're constantly giving you information. Like Chris said, it is a series of time jumps that I think are done fairly well. You don't necessarily know how long it's been, but just by like a line or two here or there, you always know that, okay, a little bit of time has passed. Like they'll say, oh, like last week when they showed us that thing in Venezuela or whatever. But so I think they did all that really well. And it's just kind of giving us a snapshot of this situation that happened to the people of this planet Earth. And so, yeah, I think the whole thing was fairly, really, like I said earlier, my only issue with this, and it wasn't a big issue, was the quote unquote time jump right there at the end. Did seem kind of sudden, but it wasn't, I didn't ruin it or anything. It was the only thing that made me take pause. As far as the beginning, though, I think the narration at the beginning and the end, Serling's narration, you had to have it. Is it needed just for this specific episode? No, not really. But is it needed because this is a Twilight Zone? Yeah. Well, I mean, a Twilight Zone without Rod Serling coming in and saying something cheeky in the beginning and the end is not the Twilight Zone. It's like, that's just part of it. That would be really, I think if you didn't have it, people would be more fixated on why didn't he come on? And they'd be not paying attention to what was going on. So like his closing and opening narration are neither is particularly long. And I think that's probably because his narration was also edited from whatever originally, I have no idea what it originally was, but he apparently made some changes to that too when they reshot. So
wow,
that's actually
I don't know.
That's actually fascinating to think about. It's like, what was this originally like? You know, because now it's like a classic, but what was it before? Was it like not a classic? I'll see. That would be. I would want to watch that just to see what it was like, because it's like when you hear about like Dick Tracy or Gremlins. There's like apparently an R-rated Gremlins out there, like a script that Chris Columbus wrote. I can
believe that.
And there's there's an R-rated Dick Tracy cut somewhere that Warren Beatty's never released, and I want to watch these things. I would love to watch a darker take on this because, like I said, you guys mentioned later, them getting on the ship and not seeing the ending portion with which is fine. Like it wraps up the story nicely, but it would have been interesting to be bold like that. But
what I understood was that it moved almost too fast. Apparently, even though they cut stuff out or added to it, apparently the pace was like it was too fast. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was.
Possible.
The only things I know that are like specifically changed is his narration was altered, and I know that they reshot, like I said, 75%. Well, they reshot 75% of it, but they didn't use everything they reshot. They took both of them and put them together and kind of made an episode. But I do know that the end was supposed to end when he shut the guy in there, and the thing in the beginning and the end was not there, and that it was just there wasn't enough substance or something, or like there was length there, but it just wasn't. There wasn't enough character building and substance.
You're saying it wasn't girthy enough.
I knew somebody was going to do it.
I was waiting for you to say it. I was waiting for someone to say it.
But yeah, that was what I gathered from it, and I felt like, I mean, it was apparently the right call, because I think this is a really good episode and very well paced.
Nick, I do wonder if you could go back and watch the original story that this is based on to get maybe a better idea of how it would have laid out different.
Well, the original story is very different. I do know that. Like it takes place on, I think, another planet.
Oh, okay.
And the creatures are like little pigmen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. There was the bit of trivia where they wanted to do that, but because they did that in Eye of the Beholder, they didn't go that route.
Yeah, and I think it was the astronauts that went somewhere or something like that. It was like the same basic idea, like the reveal was the same, but it was just the whole. They kind of took the idea from this story and made this story. Well, I haven't read the story, but that's just what I heard.
Yeah.
Actually, before we continue, before I forget, because I know I will, Jacob, I know you really want to read this opening narration. I was going to let you go for a week without reading it, but I felt like that would.
No, because we get to the end of it, and then we'd be like, hey, now we got to act like it's the beginning. Okay. I didn't read this per usual in advance.
That's what Rod Serling said? Holy crap.
I mean, Rod Serling was just standing in front of a camera, so I mean, you're good.
Oh,
this was the part that was edited out.
Yeah.
I got to make it bigger because I'm old and I can't
That's what
read.
she said.
I can read, I just can't see. Respectfully submitted for your perusal. A Kennemite. Height, a little over 9 feet. Weight, in the neighborhood of 350 pounds. Origin, unknown. Motives, therein hangs the tale. For in just a moment, we're going to ask you to shake hands, figuratively, with a Christopher Columbus from another galaxy and another time. This is the Twilight Zone.
Okay,
So good
so
with
I get
words.
right. So I
That's
gotta
right.
ask, a guy's 9 feet. This creature's 9 feet tall. This alien, and he's 350 pounds. He's pretty skinny. Like they must be, these human beings must be very hardy, not hardy, but like allow you to keep
no,
your
that's why
weight
they're here,
because.
because we're not.
Well, no, I was gonna say they're really skinny, and so like 350 pounds. Can you imagine if they're on their own planet, how big they are?
Man.
You know, because Richard, for 350 pounds for 9 feet tall is actually kind of slimming.
Yeah. They needed,
Well,
well, they should have just waited until they needed to wait about 50, 60 years. It would have gotten a much better girth out of some of their
Oh my
livestock here.
God. I was
Right.
gonna
Would've
say it's
died.
all. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, just cholesterol would be through the roof at that point.
Yeah.
though.
I was
See, they
gonna
would've
say
found
that.
Fast food took over, and then
Oh
yes.
God. I was gonna
Right.
say all of their height and stuff came from way too many shoulder pads.
Mhm, mhm.
Right.
Real quick, there's a sequel to this episode apparently. In the
Is there?
2019, I'm reading it here. I've not seen the 2019 Twilight Zone, the Jordan Peele one, but apparently they made a sequel to it called
Is it to
You Might Also
lose
Like.
weight? I was gonna say, is it to lose weight? They've eaten so many people.
Maybe, I don't know. It just says 2019 Twilight Zone episode You Might Also Like serves as a sequel to the episode To Serve Man, which features the Kennemites or Kennemites who are still learning about Earth's culture.
Chris, have you actually seen the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone at all?
I watched the first episode with
Kumail.
Nanjiani.
Yeah.
I thought it was all right. But it didn't. I think at that point too, I didn't have like whatever it was, Paramount Plus or whatever, and so I didn't watch the rest of it, and then I just didn't go back to it. Is it worth checking out?
I watched
Okay.
like 2 or 3
Yeah,
episodes. We're going to talk about it because I think we're going to run through the whole Twilight Zone series in general. But the problem is, like, for somebody who bases all his films off the Twilight Zone, basically they're all Twilight Zone movies. Basically, what he does, it feels like there's something. The only series of the Twilight Zone outside the original that feels remarkably like the Twilight Zone is the 80s one. The one that Forrest Whitaker did. There's an episode where they remake The Passerby, which is is it The Passerby? Basically, there was this episode that we talked about where Civil War soldier comes up and starts talking to this woman. He's been injured, and all these Civil War soldiers are walking past him and stuff like that. And we find out that he is actually dead. I think she's dead too. And
They're
blah,
all
blah, blah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all dead. And basically, they remade it, but they had like a 2000s vibe to it. So you remember like Creed and all those 2000
Those
songs,
heartfelt
and,
moments at the end, all of a sudden, in the
Yeah,
background, you're
like Dawson's Creek and stuff like that. But it was not. It was better than The Passerby. But it wasn't great. But I mean, yeah, the Jordan Peele one, I think, just misses the idea of what makes the Twilight Zone so special.
I haven't seen. I want to watch them. I like Jordan Peele for the most part, but I haven't seen any of them. But I have seen like 1 or 2 of his openings, or maybe it was promos for it. I don't know. Whenever he's doing his Serling on the way he is on the show, I can't take it serious. He looks like he's doing a skit for Key and Peele.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he does those skits and he'd be like real serious. That is what he's doing when he's doing his Rod Serling or whatever in the beginning of or at least in the promo stuff I saw. So I can't take it serious. But hopefully the episode, I heard it's not bad. I mean, it got canceled, but good things get canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They do.
I mean, we'll get to that point eventually when we have to actually talk about it. I'm sure it's better than the 4th season. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, this
Well-
4th season must be terrible. I don't remember anything about it.
No, like I said before, not all the episodes are terrible. They're just way too long for their own good. But anyways, so in essence, like, to kind of break down what's going on, the Kennemites are offering prosperity. They're offering everything that we truly want: peace, the people around the world holding hands about Coca-Cola and stuff like that. It's that type of story. They're like, we can make your barren lands prosperous with plants, and we can like take your guns away and make you
Electrolytes.
happy. Yeah, your electrolytes and your electrolyte isn't and nitrates, and we'll get rid of everything, and we'll just make everything perfect. And I do have one small issue with this, and it's just me. It may not be you guys, but they're offering everybody all these things, and they show that they work. Like they have a device that whatever the device is, I can't remember because I didn't write it down
Force
for some
field.
good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, force field.
Force
Yeah,
field
thank
for
you.
the countries.
Yeah, and they do all that. They do the lie detector stuff, which I actually thought was pretty brilliant. I thought it was interesting. And I don't know what you guys felt about it, but like the idea of like him telling a lie and then him telling the truth, like the test, like I don't know if it was like a test or they were just doing it to have him do it. But all that stuff, like, what do you guys think about all that kind of stuff? Like how it plays in? Because a lot of these episodes are like a lot of times doom and gloom, the shelter and.
Well, you figure, I mean, it's 1962 when this comes out, and so
Cold War and everything.
Yeah, the world is tumultuous. We don't want to enter back into like a World War II scenario, but then we're also duking it out kind of with Russia, or at least communists and USSR. And yeah, exactly. Well, there's all these tensions, and so I think part of this really does speak to an American audience and maybe even a world audience that we don't want this. We don't want bad things. We've seen bad things happen very recently in our past, and so when something comes and it offers health, good food, safety, all these things. I mean, it's basically assuaging everybody's fears that they had at this moment, whether they want to admit them or not. And that's why even when we see like all these countries are committing to reducing their military or their nuclear armaments or whatever by half, and they just keep getting smaller and smaller because they're moving towards peace and they feel safe and protected. And I think it's trying to bring the audience in to make us feel as if I were the audience watching at that same time, kind of that comfort and that, oh, okay, these are good. They want to do us, they want to help us. And so I'm going to be on board with this, which then ideally sucks you more into the story before the zinger comes.
Well, because the interesting thing is, I don't know. I know, Chris, I don't know, Triv, if you probably, I think you haven't seen it yet, but watching this episode after seeing Oppenheimer brings in a lot more interesting dimension to the nature of like how the world was working in this time frame, because Oppenheimer, even though that took place in the 40s, we're in the midst of that after effect. So in this episode, they're talking about like the hydrogen bomb and the atomic bomb, and it puts things into perspective that, even though we know what Oppenheimer did, but my point is the fact that they're taking what he feared of like a whole total nuclear war and total destruction, and they're willing to help us eradicate all that stuff. And I'm kind of curious what you think of that and what you guys think of that as well, because I that was just for me from watching that movie, just kind of, oh, that's interesting to think about, like how this episode is Rod Serling directly talking about those fears and what it would be like if somebody were to help us. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'm kind of two minds about this. On one side, there's always that if something is too good to be true, it probably is. No one does something without expecting something in return, even if it's a small, like a thank you or whatever. But on the other side, you look at the era and it was such an age of hope. It was like they were looking towards like the future and the space race and, on one side, and then you had like the gloom and doom and destruction and, the red curtain drop or the iron curtain dropping and everything else. I could see it like, maybe there is hope for us. All of these things that we were promised after World War II, we didn't really get the way that we were hoping to. And so you can see that hope amongst hope that, like with Jack Kennedy, it was like Camelot and great things and all of this stuff. And you could see it a lot of different ways, I guess. I'm probably jumping all over the place, but that weird balance of fear and hope that was kind of prevalent in that era.
Yeah, man, it's all about hope. I mean, back then, we got to think they're not that far removed from World War II, kind of a big thing around the world, and
Yeah, just a little bit.
And then we had entered into a Cold War, which is just a precursor to a hot war. I mean, so everybody was afraid that this Cold War was going to turn into a big thing, and everybody, I think, by this point, because we went into the Cold War shortly thereafter, World War II, relatively speaking, I think everybody was just kind of over it all, and they were just like, man, can we just get at least remnants of peace or something? Just can we take a chill pill for a little bit?
Right.
So to have this, within this version of the world, to have this race come down and say, hey, we got you. We'll give you this stuff that'll make things better. And it's not, also, it wasn't totally unbelievable what they were offering. They didn't come down and offer peace and harmony.
True.
They even came down and said, hey, one of the things we'll give you is a force field. We get that you're a bunch of crazy psychos. You're still going to try to kill each other. We're going to give you a force field so nobody can do anything to you. But I mean, you can't do anything to them either. So it's kind of a forced peace. And I think that resonates with people. It doesn't sound quite too good to be true. It's great that you're giving us this technology, but it's not as if they're not promising something that's unattainable. They're promising you something to at least keep everybody in check. So yeah, I mean, I think that within the real world context and within the world that this takes place in, it'd be a very alluring thing. I mean, if hell, especially if they came down now, but if they came offering these types of things, I think it would be hard to say no. And it even starts at first, everyone is very suspicious of them. It was a suspicious time of everybody, Red Scares and all that. And so I like how the episode does, while it is have time jumps and it moves forward over this period of time fairly quickly in 24 minutes. It shows that everybody doesn't just embrace them with open arms just because they're offering the world. Everybody's kind of suspicious of them. And then as they start showing them things, people start warming up to them to the point to where they're like, yeah, let's go on vacation to their planet, which is weird that they never gave it a name.
Well,
yeah,
that's
they
what
really
I was going to say.
They even on the little announcements go saying from Earth to our planet. It's like,
Well, but that's the thing. I do have a little bit of an issue with because they're speeding through the time so quickly in this episode. The fact that I don't hate the fact that they're going to the other planet, but if the Canaanites are offering all this technology and all this peace and all this stuff, why would these people go to their planet? Are they being told, well, you're even what we're giving you is not going to sustain the 2-3 billion people, whatever they were on that planet at the time? I mean, it's they don't really get into the specific, because they can't, because it's 24 minutes, but it feels like there should have been a little bit of something, because we get the decoder, the cipher guy, the main character Michael, and them trying to decipher what the book is, because Richard Kiel's Canaanite character leads the book, and they do all that and they give you context there, but they don't give you context of how these people became starting to go to other planets. It just kind of, I don't
think that's too far fetched. I mean,
no, it's just a nitpick.
I feel like
that's all.
These people, they've gained our trust. Everybody feels pretty comfortable with them at this point, and they do this exchange program thing so their people can come here and learn our culture and vice versa. But also just the idea of going to a advanced civilization's planet.
Yeah,
I think that curiosity, humans are very curious.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I'd be hard pressed if a similar thing happened here, or like in real life, and they were offering you to go to this place pretty much on a vacation to live amongst these in this fantastical world. Sure. I mean, once we feel comfortable with them, yeah, let's do it. Let's go see what this is all about. They've made us feel comfortable. That's exciting. Why did we go to the moon?
Yeah.
Because we could, if you, for those that believe that we went to the moon, vice versa. But there are some. I think Stanley Kubrick has something to do with that. But no, I mean, why do we do that stuff? It's because we're curious. We want to explore. We want to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Absolutely.
I could totally believe that people would be signing on the dotted line. Just, yes, I want to go. Haphazard.
That's fair. Yeah.
I do think too, and I guess maybe I'm just a bitter old biddy, but I do kind of feel like when they're in the line and they're talking about all the amazing things that are on the planet, it almost feels like not that they've regressed to children, but they're just like, oh my gosh, they're gonna let me go shopping. Oh boy, they're gonna let me eat everything I want. It feels like little kids being promised all of these amazing things.
Well, that's actually the ironic thing. Is the idea of like these aliens have learned kind of what our being is as a human being. Like we always resort, we all know this, we resort, Jacob, you know, Chris and Trev, we always resort back to our childhood and the things we love about our childhood, and you know the fact that we were ignorant, you know, if the Canaanites and what their ultimate goal is. yeah, true, we're still ignorant. But you know where I'm getting at, where like they know how to leech onto what makes us who we are, so they can use that to their advantage. And maybe them going to the other planet and eating us is, you know, is something that just they do, but they are able to coerce us into our kind of what is it, animalistic state, is kind of the nature of like materialistic in nature. Yeah, primal nature.
Well, it's, I mean, you watch any group of people walk into a cruise ship, Disneyland, a mall, you know, I mean, people, you know, they do get giddy. And especially if you're not having to pay for anything, that, I mean, you all of a sudden go, ooh, you know, and
I mean, hell, like, you know,
go buy shit. I'm going to the city this weekend to buy shit, so
yeah,
I'll be giddy. I'm excited.
Well, no, but that's the funny
video
part.
game stores and buy a bunch of stuff I don't need that I bought.
Yeah, buy
30 years ago, and I'm buying again.
Yep, for more.
Yes, for a whole lot more.
But that's what the funny part is, and that's what kind of this episode does a little bit about. Like, Chris, you know, by going to Disneyland, and Jacob, I know Triv, you have never really been to Disney World, like, like without being in somebody's, you know, but you know what I mean. But Disney World has its theme parks. Disneyland has its theme parks. They have their theme parks, but as you know, our materialistic need of things and joy comes down to what Disney is known for doing, or theme parks are known for doing: selling you shit, selling you the clothes. And the Disney store at Disney Springs in Florida is this gigantic store of stuff you can buy. And it's the same thing here. Like, they're offering you stuff, and they're manipulating you into believing this like comfortability, which is what Disney does, which is what, you know, going to McDonald's does, which was what goes to all these places. You know, we talk about, like, you know, like, for instance, like, one of my favorite things to do is go see a movie, and, you know, you sit there and what do? You buy, you know, a $1,200 bottle of soda, a $14,000 bucket of popcorn, Twizzlers, as Jacob likes to get.
Orlando are high.
But yeah, I mean, but that's like my whole point of like that. It just of that whole nature of like us and stuff, you know, going to another planet, as Jacob has alluded to, something that makes a lot of sense, where, ooh, I can go taste the treats of another planet, or I can go live and see the creatures and blah blah blah. It's like in Don't Look Up, when they yes, it's like grandpa is the Canaanite, stupid son of a bitch. No, but it's like Don't Look Up, when they go to the planet, and it's just like they get destroyed because they we're gonna go and be peaceful. Yeah, no. I gotta ask you guys about Michael Chambers, because usually these characters, the main character is very suspicious, very, you know, he's like one step ahead of us. But here he's just like normal dude, deciphers. He doesn't really even think about it. Like the military is more worried about it than he is. And he's just like, it's another day, you know, it's cool. Like, you don't see that in the Twilight Zone very often. You don't see a character just kind of like us. It's just like, hey, they're giving us stuff. Cool. You know, we found the book says to serve man. What does that mean? I don't know. It's a book. Well, maybe we'll decipher in 10 years. Who knows? But like, what do you guys think about that as the protagonist? Like, because it's just, it really is like us in general. Like, it's, there's really all it is. It's just the guy's like, cool. You know, they're here. They're helping us. It's not till the end when he realizes what's truly happening. And that's crazy, because that doesn't really happen
on the ship, and he goes, "Oh shit."
Well, I'll tell you this: it does make the cheese a little more binding.
Yeah, right. And like, I gotta ask you guys this question: like, outside of Michael Chambers, like, the Canaanite leaving the book, Do you think that was done on purpose? Do you think that was a mistake? Like, what do you guys think about this? Just that nature in general, like there's so laissez-faire or laissez-faire,
Laissez-faire.
yeah, laissez-faire about the whole situation. That it takes like apparently it takes 10 years for Patty to uncover that it's a cookbook, but it's just like, I mean, what do you guys think about the laissez-faire nature to Michael and everybody? Kind of, so it's interesting because it doesn't really happen very often.
I suppose it does come that point where you wait for the other shoe to drop and the other shoe doesn't drop, and you're like,
Yeah, I think he's just like everybody else, just kind of they earned his not respect, but
trust.
Trust, yeah, there you go. That word. They earned it because the woman too. She was, I think in the beginning they were somewhat, if not questioning what they were here for. I mean, they were to a degree. They were just kind of a little skeptical. They were a little guarded. But then by the end, when they're having their conversation, both of them are excited. They're even both like, "Yeah, I'm on that." He's like, "I'm on a 10-year waiting list," and she's like, "Me too." And like, so I think everybody's just kind of giving in and accepts them because I don't know what the timeline is supposed to be, but I'm going to assume it's been at least months, if not a bit longer than that, because they don't ever really allude to that, right?
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't. It just says, it just says sometime later in the Wikipedia page. It doesn't. I'm assuming it's like it's probably a couple years, maybe. I don't know. It really like it doesn't really specify, but like I mean, in general, like I was saying, like most of the characters in Rod Serling's writing or whoever he has writing, there's a level of like urgency to the characters, but Michael Chambers doesn't feel like there's any urgency to his character, and that's why it's so different because it doesn't feel like, it just feels like a guy who just kind of accepted, and usually the guy would be like sweaty and he freaking out and just like crying against that tree in front of his apartment or something like that.
It just falls in line with the story is trying to say how like we are, or at least in that time we were eager for normality. I mean, that's not normal, but something that wasn't bad. We were eager. We were eager for good things.
Walk this way.
Yes, we were eager for good things.
Put your hump on the other.
Got the brain, Abby normal. Anyway, we were eager for good things to happen, and because everybody was we were so over war and death and just a constant attack on everything that when something good finally happened, we didn't want to, even though they mentioned it in the episode, we didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I think he falls in line with that. Everybody was. I think everybody was just kind of like, ugh. Yes,
I think
we caught a break.
Well, and by making him an everyman and not suspicious, we as the audience then let our guard down too. Mm-hmm. Because if he's suspicious, then we're on edge the entire time. And it's fine to be on edge at the beginning, right? Because this weird thing has come in, this giant dude with a big forehead. And so, okay, we're all a little sketchy, I don't know. And then he earns the trust of the characters. So then as the audience, we let our guard down too. And that's then when I think why it works so well is because he's excited, like you said, to hop on the ship. I want to go. I'm on the waiting list. Good Lord. Yeah. You would think that I could almost, bump myself up because I'm this important role. I'm curious if my guess is that the Canomit leaves the book there because probably they don't expect humans to be able to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like when you leave something, a rancher leaves something in the cow, wherever they're at. You don't expect the cow to figure it out. Be like, oh God, guys, they're going to milk you. They're going to kill you.
See that thing over there? Don't go to that. That is not fun. Yes.
They don't. We're just kind of beneath them in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess not everybody can be Amy Adams and Arrival. Decipher languages quickly.
Well, and it could be too, even if that one person figures it out, it's you against the entire world. It's kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, you've been shown that they're everything else that you would say against them goes against that.
Yeah.
They gave us food. They, brought about safety and all that crap.
Now, are they malicious though? I gotta want. I mean, But there's one thing that happens in the episode that makes me say they are. But do you think that in their minds, the Kennemites, are they malicious? Are they like, do they think they're doing, are they being, I can't think tonight, but are they misleading us to try and like trick us, or are they just treating us like cattle?
See, I thought they were more so they just look at us like cattle.
Yeah.
You know, they're not being cruel to us.
Sure.
But they're also not explaining everything, you know, because we probably couldn't understand it in their minds, maybe.
Right.
The only thing that kind of throws me for a loop on that is when the guy does start trying to get off and he just shoves him in there. But then I think about it, I'm like, well, I mean, that's what, you know, somebody would do with a literal
pig trying to run away, right?
Get back in there.
Well, that's what you guys were talking about earlier with like the kid mentality. Like, as you just said, like if you go to, I don't know, a theme park, or you go to get a haircut or a doctor, you know, the kid's probably gonna be screaming and like, I don't want to go. And then they get forced onto the ship, or they're forced onto whatever. And then, you know, I don't know, but like, that's what it feels like. He's like a little kid where he's like, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to smoke myself. He's like the smooth taste of Oasis or something like that. Yeah, it just like, we resort to this kind of like weird kid like state in which he does, and he's like whatever at the end. But I don't know, it's really fascinating. Like, are they manipulating him, or do they believe, or is this like something they just do, and they like, maybe they're like eking out the population because they feel like the population could, you know, be wound down because there's too many people on this planet. Like as Jacob alluded to earlier, you know, what if they came to 2023 with like 18 billion people or whatever's on the planet and they're all fat? Like, you know, would it be completely different? Like, it'd be interesting to see, like, just the like more. I know you said there's like a sequel, but like more of like the original version up to date, like kind of how they would position that. But I don't know.
They'd be all like, I get that one and that one.
Yeah, they'd be looking at him just like the United States in general, like, hey, everyone else is fine, but the United States, man, you love that McDonald's and
they got McDonald's.
Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of curious, if they ate McDonald's, would they said, oh, you know what, humans are not tasty at all. I want that salt-filled patty and French fries.
Da 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 da. They're loving it. So I did have to laugh, just sorry, real quick, with the and I know it's the 60s, and you know they're doing the best they can with what they got and everything, but the fact that they thought that a lie detector would work on an alien, you know, because they're describing the technique like, oh, this monitor's high.
Yeah, they have the pad in the hand, like there's the measuring the sweat. I'm like, are you basically saying that these creatures are human, and like, do they sweat? Like,
they tested it. How did you get here? I walked.
They were cheeky. I love that, how cheeky he was with that.
You know what would have made this episode great is if when they started talking to everyone, if people just started screaming and running around, and then, you know, on an airplane, just like a naked woman ran across the screen and just ran off. No, but like I can imagine, like, when they start, because, you know, they're doing like the Lord Voldemort and Harry Potter thing where they're just talking to everyone through their minds, or at least this is what it feels like. And you can imagine how many people would be like the people in the insane asylum are like, I told you people were talking to us, you know, like, but I don't know. It's just it's interesting to see like how all it takes is a little bit of like prosperity, and people are like, yeah, we'll do whatever you say.
Well, it's safety versus safety and security over everything else, you know.
Nick, are you saying that all it takes is somebody to come along and give its populace lies and they'll just follow it?
Yeah,
I don't think that would ever happen. That could never happen.
No. This I would never say this episode.
Yeah,
I would never say 70 million% of the population is it believes that, you know. No, never would do that. I would never say this episode is believable in every sense. But
it is interesting though how that goes. Like at the beginning, you get like they're saying, oh, well, don't waste water, make sure to put your cigarette in the butt, or a cigarette in the butt.
Cigarette in the butt. That's an episode. Put your cigarette in your butt.
That was a little painful too.
Right.
You know,
Which
entirely different website.
Also, aliens apparently like their meat smoked at that point, so you know.
Smoked butt.
Exactly. exactly. But like
Actually,
all
let
those,
me.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just
No,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
it was interesting. Like, you know, there is that balance of like freedom versus regulation, and how like every bit of their lives are monitored when they're on the spaceship. You know, it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
you're not drinking enough. Oh, you haven't eaten. Oh, you haven't done this. You haven't done that. Like,
You know, just for the simple fact they offer free food, I think I would just go for that reason. I would never have to pay for food again.
You're the
If they
free
want to
food.
eat me, you know, let me have, you know, let me have my last meal of like, you know, Buc-ee's and Wawa and Las Espadas and stuff like that. You know, as long as you made me full, you can eat me later on. I don't give a shit. No, actually, I do have a question for you, Chris, and this is kind of like a little bit off topic, but kind of focuses on this. When you mentioned earlier when we first started that you saw the social commentaries, how do episodes of the Twilight Zone now, especially like an episode like this or I the Beholder, or you know, how do those like affect you like on a like psychological and like emotional level? Because you know, when we were kids, we focused on like the surface level stuff, like the alien here, the aliens, and they're gonna eat people. But there's like much like we go into as we talk about these episodes and we start learning about them. There's a deeper meaning behind what Rod Serling was doing. So I'm kind of curious of what you think about that, just in general, just you know, going back and watching some of how prescient these episodes end up being even today. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy at the relevance that
Yeah.
still exists, you know. Well, and also think about like Black Mirror couldn't have existed without this. You know, first any show that really takes an issue, a social issue, and then attacks it in a different way and brings it about it in a way that people, you know, they don't understand that they're being shown something different or maybe counter to what they believe until the end when it's you know, when it's revealed or resolved or whatever. I think a lot of these still hold some really good truths and things to learn, and I think that's what makes them classic, is because they don't time out. You know, they don't. I mean, sure, you look at this, the prosthetics are bad, the production value is what it was, you know, but the story itself, the content there, and that's how you tell, I mean, all of the classics. I mean, there are so many books that were written, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, that still hold some very valuable lessons for us. And I think when that happens, the timelessness of them really connects with people. And you can, I think also the best thing about some of these is that going back at different parts in your life, you rewatch them and they hit you in a different way. You know, so you may catch one thing one time because that's kind of where you're at in life or what you're dealing with or whatever. You watch the same piece of content though 15 years later, and because of all your life circumstances, it now speaks to you in a completely different way. And maybe you totally disagree with it now. Maybe it doesn't affect you at all. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, for me, anytime you get a social commentary, I'm like, what are we going to learn? What's it going to say? Is it going to, you know, like make me go, ooh, that crap is looking right at me.
Because we had a couple episodes this year or this season, which one is Death's Head Revisited and one's The Shelter. And The Shelter is kind of like what would happen if like people wanted it's what would happen if people wanted to, like if there was like a bomb attack and like somebody had a shelter, and like how does that affect people and stuff like that. It's pretty fascinating. But no, I meant to ask you that earlier, but I'm just curious to like, you know, where you come from like now compared to then. But I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because, like I said, learning from what Rod Serling says, it really is insane. Like how ahead of his time he was on doing this kind of stuff. Because like I mean, you had Mr. Ed, and you know, you had The Fugitive and Mission Impossible, like I said earlier. But no show was doing what this show did, and for better or worse, some episodes better, some episodes worse. It's I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, getting into kind of like, you know, because we've been talking for a while, but getting into like kind of the ending. So at this point, everybody's decided that they're going to go to the planet, whatever planet, Canadima or Chlamydia, whatever the planet is called.
Wow.
That should have been the name of
That'd
it.
be funny.
Never
It's
come
our
back from
planet.
that.
It's our planet.
No, anyways,
Better than being
Michael
called
Chambers,
gonorrhea, I guess.
right? But hold on a second,
We call this planet crabs.
But anyways, Michael Chambers and Patty, you know, they're said they're on a waiting list, and she's gonna continue to whatever because the large words are harder to translate than the smaller words when it comes to the book. I gotta ask you guys, like, you know, as Jacob has alluded to, and we've agreed, like the time jump is kind of unknown because you're not sure when he actually goes to the ship, because he doesn't really age. So like I'm pretty sure when you age 10 years, if he's waited 10 years, you're gonna look a little different than you did in the earlier segment.
I don't think it was supposed to be 10 years. I think he was just saying he was
well,
on the
no,
10
I'm just saying, like, yeah, like they were eating that many people that quickly. They're just like, keep them going. Like 2 days later, it's like, tall. Yeah, they're very hungry. They're like the T-Rex or like raptors. But like all this stuff, like we don't get the reveal till literally like what, a minute and a half before the episode ends, which is quite impressive. But I mean, what do you guys think? Like, it's one of the most well-known endings, but like just the lead up to, like, you know, he's boarding the ship and Patty comes out and he's like, so in the green is people, you know, that type of thing, where she's like, oh, I found the book. It's, you know, don't get on the ship. It's blah, blah, blah. They're eating
Cookbook.
people. It's a cookbook, you know, like barbecue ribs and, you know, I don't know, salted pancreas, or, you know, teriyaki wang, you know,
put those ribs on the Barbie.
you know, teriyaki wang and like roasted foot. You know, I don't know how what
roasted foot.
Like, do you think
have
they,
you
like,
ever had to cut other people's toenails? You're not wanting to eat foot.
That's disgusting.
It
I
is
don't even know.
It's toe jam and cheese and
stop.
like you gotta wonder, you know, not that it sounds too disgusting, but you gotta wonder, like, how do they do like the Tales from the Dark Side, where, you know, they're prepping them to feed and they're gonna put them in pots. Like, it's just a really kind of insanely disturbing, crazy for 1962 ending, where, you know, we find out it's a cookbook. Like, the times that Twilight Zone goes disturbing, it's not this disturbing. It's more of like actual disturbing when it comes to like Purple Testament with like real war scenarios, or the shelter or something like that. But this is like going into cannibalism, going into cooking people, and I like, what do you guys think about that? Well, I mean, in our view, it's technically cannibalism, but I like how Michael Chambers is like the only person that seems upset by this. She's screaming it, and everybody's just like, we're just gonna walk on the ship anyways. It's just like, it's really funny to see. But like, what do you guys think about them doing like that, being kind of the ending to technicality to the episode, just like the reveal? Like, even though we know it's still pretty shocking. Like, I mean, what do you guys think?
I think, like we talked about, you know, had they ended it with him being forced onto the ship, that would have been, I mean, that's freaky. But something that's haunting is we watch him give up hope, where he then just grabs the food and just starts eating it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's abandoned everything now, and he's just, I'm done for. And that, I think, that hopelessness is like, oh, that's probably even worse, than, because you know your fate now versus us, and we know his fate, you know, and we're watching him just accept it versus that fight to be shoved onto the ship.
Yeah, and that fourth wall break is pretty great, because he's like, what would you do in this scenario? Is like, you probably do the same thing I'm doing. You can't do anything about it. I'm on a ship now smoking cigarettes. Like, fuck. But I mean, yeah, it's crazy, because it's such a hopelessness scenario that he's in now, and you're just like, oh, there's got to be a thing to get out of it. But I don't know. I mean, what do you two think? Like, Jacob and Triv?
I think that you're right. That I guess I didn't think about it. Like, you see him kind of start mowing down, and I didn't think about the fact that he had lost hope. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there is that moment of just, you know, he's ridiculed, and then it's like he's just like, I what can I do? I didn't see this coming. You know, it shoulda, woulda, coulda, and I didn't, and here I am. So
yeah, I like how he just kind of accept, because what do? You're on the ship, you're going, they're not making your life hell. He just kind of accepted it and was like, all right, here I am. And then he just starts chowing down on these peas or whatever it is in these plastic baggies. like he's a rabid animal. And he does. He pretty much, I can't remember specifically what he said, but he kind of looks at the camera and he's like, what would you do? And I mean, he's right. What are you going to do? I mean, there's nothing he could do. He just accepts it and says, well, make the best of this situation, I guess. let's get full. I do wonder, is it because we are they just going to take them there and immediately like slaughter them and eat them? Or are they gonna? Is it a situation where they're kind of like, hey, we're gonna let them live like a nice life, like give them all these things we're promising them, and then take them out there at the end?
No, they put them in pens and let them free range themselves, so they're not stringy.
Until we're harvested. Yeah,
Our
that's
free
what
range is a mall, giant mall, with
Krispy
money.
Kreme.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Krispy Kreme and Sparrow
McDonald's
pizza.
and
I would think
sharper
that
image.
they. I would think that they probably actually, because that's the thing about them. They're
Hot
not.
pocket.
Yeah, exactly. They're not. They're like that weird benevolent like creatures. You know, they're like he's so angry and so fired up, and it just his anger kind of bounces off them. They're just kind of like, we're just doing our thing here. And I would imagine that in mind, they're probably going to make their lives as good as possible, but they are going to, spit roast them, over,
They're gonna Ewok it. They're gonna put them all in the spit and sing a chant. And no, actually,
hang
he
their
does
head
say
on a
something.
wall, and
Right, he does say something at the very end where he's like, "We all become on the menu eventually," and it does harken back to the fact that we're all eventually gonna die and be worm food or whatever. Anyway, so it's just like he's like, "All right, cool."
you know what
As
it
long
is?
as you can,
It's-
as long as you don't do it Texas Chainsaw style.
The French.
The circle of life.
The cabinets. But I mean, yeah, I mean, like it's such a crazy ending. It's like, the ending of Eye of the Beholder. It's just it just like hits you with a gut punch. You're like, something's foreboding about it. You don't know what it is, but it's foreboding. And if you think about it, when they decipher to serve man, it's like, well, I mean, if you think about it, they're serving man to help them, but no, there's an underlining disturbing nature to it, and that's what makes this episode so insanely well put together.
That's all the most memorable and best episodes of Twilight Zone. They always have that moral twist of that ironic twist of fate, and it's always right there close to the end. But the thing is, that's not the only part of the equation. Like, because you have we've talked about quite a few times on this episode or on this show. What's the one the planet?
Third from the sun.
Third from the sun. Banger ending. Ending absolutely made the whole episode. And for a long time, I've told the story a bunch of times. For a long time on here, I held that real high, and I would like compare other things to it. But I had to admit that the rest of the episode really wasn't all that. And it wasn't terrible. It was just kind of like, whatever. And then that happens in the end, and you're like, oh my God. This one wasn't like that. This one had an oh my God end, but the rest of the episode was interesting as well. I was interested to see what was happening, where it was going. There were no dips or lulls or anything like that. I think that the most memorable Twilight Zone episodes do that. You have this one. You have Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, the Invaders, and the face one. I forgot it again.
Eye of the Beholder.
Eye of the Beholder. Yeah, you always have this banger of an ending, but the rest of the episode had really interesting stuff to keep you engaged as well. And I think that's something that this one did, and that's why it is a classic.
Absolutely. Well said. I would also like to say, this is really random and stupid, but I just thought of it. It'd be really funny if the alien was taking the lie detector test and it was done on Maury. You are not the father.
Somebody
You are
that.
the cannibal.
Have a green screen Maury Povich coming in.
Oh,
You are
God,
not
that'd
the
be
father.
so funny. And then he just gets like that snide little smile, like, yeah.
Oh man. But I mean, yeah, that's the episode. It's a well-paced, well put together episode that does a lot for 24 minutes. I mean, as we've said before, you watch some episodes and you're just like, what were they thinking here? It's just like, I mean, unless they had, like I said, 45 to 50 minutes, like there's not much more else you can add that, would really make it work better. I mean, it's just like almost like a perfect episode in a lot of ways, but I mean, overall, we kind of talked about like, us enjoying this episode, but overall, Chris, like, what is your take on this episode as just a whole?
Well, it's one of my favorites. It's one of the most memorable for me. I mean, out of all of them that I watched as a kid or anything else, there's only a few of them that really bubble up to the top, and this is one of those. Yeah.
What about
What
you
is
guys?
you? I know we asked you in the beginning. I don't think you said what was that you remember your favorite episode.
I think Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. That one, yeah, I think that might be my favorite one. I don't know. I'd have to watch a handful of them again, kind of like I did with this one, to just watch it once, reacquaint myself with it, and then watch it again and really dive into the context of everything that's being said, and make it provide something better.
Yeah, it's been like I said, it's been a little bit easier for us because, like I said, we've watched 89 episodes at this point. So you like, I'm pretty sure you don't want to go back and watch 156 episodes to find out what would be your true favorite. But
No.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't want to watch
No.
Trouble Templeton or Static or
No, you don't.
Mr. Temple is Wrong.
Well, maybe he would. Individual lists are individual lists.
Those are
Trev,
not.
we're
top of
trying to
anybody's
help him here.
individual lists.
Hey, you know what? I like to play Loki.
They
It's
may not
important.
be at the bottom, but they are not at the top. For
Um,
your perusal, though, I would say The Invaders. Top-notch episode.
Absolutely. Oh, well, absolutely excellent episode. It's fantastic. It's fantastical.
If you don't know the thing about that episode, that's a fantastic episode to watch.
I
I
don't
would
know
say even
I-
if you did, but
I mean,
yeah,
it's either way, but not. I remember the first time I watched that episode, it was just like, like it was
the
one of those
invaders.
mind-blowing episodes. I mean,
nice.
the effects are what they are, but
Sure.
you got to go, like, you go into a show like this, and you just got to understand what you're watching and when it's from. Which I'm sure you even said that. You get that. It came out in 1961, so
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to take that into account there.
Okay,
If and when
Trev-
you do watch it, we need you to come back and tell us what your thoughts are on certain elements of it.
Okay.
fantastic
Okay.
lighting. I will say that.
Yeah.
Very creative, great lighting in it. But
Are you guys telling him to watch Trouble Templeton? Because I will tell him not to do that.
no,
I'm kidding.
But the thing is, like,
Uh,
that episode doesn't rank as low as we ranked it. Like, a lot of people, it's not like high, but it's not like, the basement of the basement of the basement of the sub basement of
It
the
ain't top
other
10.
basement. No.
it ain't top 20.
Okay. Triv, you said you looked in the Twilight Zone companion, right?
I did, but I didn't really read that much into it. What do you need?
No. Okay, so I'm looking at Wikipedia because it's always factual stuff.
Well,
but-
they actually do pretty decent. It's IMDb. You
100%.
want to be pretty,
yeah.
kind of inch about.
This is my kind of issues with the Twilight Zone companion, outside of just being more of a review book than anything. It says Mark Zekri was critical of this episode, which is fine. You can be critical or whatever, but he says stating that without some sort of interplanetary Rosetta Stone, deciphering an unknown language would be impossible. He also said the word severe is highly unlikely to have the same dual meaning in both
Perv.
English and alien language. I'm like, okay, you can criticize the episode for what it is, but it's just like
It's nitpicky. It's kind of
I
it's
mean,
kind of like
so he's
those
gonna say
guys.
he's gonna make the same complaint about Arrival. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, how would she be able to decipher what the aliens are saying now without an interplanetary Rosetta Stone? It just you got to sometimes realize that the episode's not gonna be. It's more of a decipher into like human psychology than it is about anything. It's just they add in that really cool.
It's not about
ideas.
that. What does he have to say about, Back to the Future 2, where Doc Brown uses a friggin' food processor to power the
Yeah.
DeLorean? I mean, come on. Man. Some things you just gotta suspend
I
disbelief a
will-
little bit to
I
get to
mean,
the point of it all.
I will
Why
go
does-
back to my. Oh, good.
I would say, why does Doctor Who have a phone booth for even 2023? It's
Why
just
would
like-
he not have a phone booth? Is my question.
no, I'm
Bigger
just
on the
saying.
inside.
Yeah.
I will go to my go-to when it comes to questions of this nature, and it is important to question because there are some things it creates discussion. There's a lot of things that if it doesn't work within the physics of that world, then there is a problem. But
Yeah.
to repeat the mantra of one of my favorite shows, repeat to yourself, it's just a show. You should probably just relax.
Yeah. I mean, some things aren't worth really. You can nitpick anything that's fiction
Right.
like that. I mean, these are 24-minute episodes that they're trying to cram this whole thing in. It's not
Well,
about how they figured it out.
And
It's
that's
about
not the point at all.
No,
yeah.
it's not.
my problem is not my problem in Twilight Zone is not the fact that this what he's talking about. It's the idea of like some of the stories just not working on a fundamental writing level. Like, you have the Trouble Templeton or Static, where it just feels like they were just like they didn't know what they wanted out of the episode. Here it's a very straightforward, very it does what it needs to do, it knows what it needs to do, and it makes a lot of sense. So I can forgive like Back to the Future or Doctor Who for having these kind of like, doesn't make any sense why a phone booth is still in 2020. I know it's like a cool aesthetic, it's like the
I'll
time
explain
machine
it later.
But I know it's just a cool aesthetic, but it's like the phone booth in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or whatever. It's just like it's an era thing. It's just it's like that. It'd be the making that complaint. It's kind of stupid. I don't know.
What did phone booths do to you that you've mentioned 2 of them now?
Oh, don't get me started with the actual movie Phone Booth. That movie, fucking Colin Farrell and Kiefer Sutherland.
The movie wouldn't
Well,
that bad.
and the other thing about this is, you don't want to. There's always that balance of you don't want to say, well, because it's this, it automatically gets a pass. But with sci-fi, there is that level of, okay, you need to give a little, you cast a little bit wider net when you're talking sci-fi or fantasy. It steps outside the realm of a lot of normality. And I'm just saying,
kind of
as
in
a
the name too, fantasy or
just a
science
little.
fiction.
Right.
You're
Well, I
talking
mean-
crazy.
Yeah, insanity.
Well, I mean, the main thing is like if we were going to complain about interplanetary Rosetta Stone, every episode of the Twilight Zone, we would have to like find some nitpick about. I mean, Eye of the Beholder. It's like all these things would have like issues. It's just what issues are the ones that make more sense than others.
yeah.
So,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, hell, a dead man's shoes, they can't carry a spirit. They can carry a smell, but everyone knows that if you're carrying a dead man's spirit, it's in his pants.
Absolutely.
God. I don't know, but I mean, other than that, I just thought I'd bring that. But like,
No, that's interesting. And that does raise a lot of
Yeah.
interesting questions in itself. But,
Yeah.
That would be something for over beer and, promise not to, bitch slap each other. And then you end up still fighting at the end of the
Well,
night because
mean,
that
that
person is clearly a dork.
What this guy's saying and things like this of this ilk, and we've even talked about some of them on this show when discussing and dissecting episodes. They're funny or fun things to kind of be like, oh, that would never happen because of this. As long as at the end of the day you realize what it is. I mean, we've even said that about things and be like, oh, this is that and blah blah blah. But then you go back to reality and you say, but as I'm rating this episode or looking at this episode, I get that doesn't really matter and it's not the point. Sounds like this guy was like, no, I take issue with this.
Right.
There was not a Rosetta Stone. There wasn't an app for that. I mean, get out of here.
Well, and like you say, it depends on what you like. If it's something that is crucial to the story, and it's like if the aliens didn't have mouths at all, or something, I don't know, something stupid like that would stop them from being able to eat. Why are they taking all these people if they're vegetarians? Or whatever it might be. Something fundamental to that character.
They put the people somewhere else.
Up their asses.
You went there, not me.
hey, guys, we're getting this all wrong. If Roland Emmerich can make Moonfall
there.
in 2012, then they can have craziness in the Twilight Zone. That's all I'm gonna
There
say.
you go.
Hey, you know what
if
though?
the movie-
They never said what they were serving man to. Not necessarily to themselves. It could have been to their cows.
Very true.
I mean, true. Yeah, true. That'd be really interesting.
They
It's
offer
like that. It's
unique-
like that. I don't know if it was like the Far Side or something like that, but it was like people were being served on a spit, and the cows were served like making them. It was a really funny picture. It was like, should we put barbecue sauce on them or? Yeah, it was. I like when they do that kind of twist and turny thing, but
this is essentially like a precursor to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe or
You're
Galaxy.
right. Yeah, good.
Instead of like a interstate, though, it's like a fast food chain, which I think wasn't that Bad Taste. Didn't Bad Taste? Wasn't that what?
yeah, Bad
well,
Taste.
yeah.
Bad Taste is in the. can't remember if it's IMDb, but they have you know how you can link to other movies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Bad Taste
Yeah.
is on there.
That was their whole
But it
thing.
might-
How they were here to get food for their interstellar fast food joint.
Cheap
Yeah, I
meat.
haven't seen Bad Taste. in
Peter
a while.
Jackson,
Yes, fantastic
Academy
movie.
Award-winning director.
And he started with
Taste.
that and Meet the Feebles.
Was Bad Taste where he gets bitten by the monkey?
No, that was
No,
Dead Alive.
The Dead Alive?
or Brain
Oh,
Dead,
okay.
depending on where you live. The Skull Island rat monkey.
Yeah. But with that said, was there anything else you guys want to talk about with this episode before we get into the closing narration? Anything else you guys wanted to say on it? Anything we left out? Did I do a good enough job coming back?
you did great.
You lie and you know it.
Well, actually, I'm standing.
Anyways, is there anything else you guys want? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about with this episode?
Maury Povich paternity test now,
There you go.
I want to see that.
because
edit.
you know there's some crossbreeding going on there.
You're editing this,
Cross-pollination.
Make it happen.
I'm sure. I'll try to green screen it the best I can. I'll split screen it with a Kenamite just staring there like a freeze frame. He says, "You are the murderer." Okay. So with that said, Jacob, go ahead and do closing narration.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely ready for that. Hang on. We usually have a build-up. The recollections of one Michael Chambers with appropriate flashbacks and soliloquy. Or, more simply stated, the evolution of man. The cycle of going from dust to desert. Sorry, not desert. Dessert.
I love that line. It's so great.
The cycle of going from dust to dessert. The metamorphosis from being the ruler of a planet to an intergent. What?
Ingredient.
The metamorphosis from being the ruler of a planet to an ingredient in someone's soup. It's tonight's bill of fare from the Twilight Zone.
What?
The dramatic putting on of the glasses was
Yep.
just so good.
When you read that, oh, I should leave. I'm gonna leave that
A little
all in just
fuzzy.
for the hell.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I need to blow it up.
That's what she said.
Oh my god. Good old airplane. All right. So that is the episode of the season 3, episode 24, the Twilight Zone Third Man, classic seminal episode. Yes, I did say that again. Oh, I meant to say that
Seminal.
they use stock. Yeah, they use stock music from Jerry Goldsmith's scores of Back There and The Invaders.
Yep, the invaders.
There you go.
She never said anything, Jacob. I'm
Sign of
disappointed.
quality
do it.
right there.
Number 28.
Oh shit! No.
No.
No, I'm kidding. With that said, we're going to do the last segment of our podcast, which of course is the Twilight Zone ranking list, because everybody loves a ranking list, including Rod Serling, who is, I'm sure, is loving this in whatever realm he is in, which is probably the
You're
Twilight
not
Zone.
ranking. You're not YouTubing right.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of
A
lists.
lot of lists, yeah.
It's a girthy list.
Certain people on YouTube would be proud.
They need a bigger list.
Other people look at
Actually,
us and go, "How in the fuck did that one end up there?"
Everybody.
Actually, after
we
this
say
week's
that
episode,
every week.
I know we do.
Like, How is that one so low? I don't know. Who put that there?
actually,
Whoops.
after this week's episode, I have to reconfigure everything because we're going into a fourth page of
Oh
listings.
no, not
It's gonna be a
fourth
nightmare.
page.
Oh, you should see how hard it is to try and get that correct. So, okay. So with that said, is this a top 10 episode?
I mean, I just asking that question, me not looking. I'd probably say yeah.
I'd put
Well,
it
I
in the top
mean,
10.
Yeah. Is this better than like where? Okay, so since you guys would put in the top 10, where in the top 10 would you put it? Like would you put it like above Obsolete Man, below that?
Somewhere
would you
between
put-
1 and 9.
Thank you, Trev.
Definitely.
I mean, is this an episode that deserves to be in like the top 5? Is this an episode that deserves to be 10 through 5? Like, I mean, what do you guys think? Because it gets really difficult at this point. Where,
Yeah.
I mean, me myself, honestly, right out the gate, I'm just gonna I would say I would if it was totally up to me, I'd just say number 3.
That's my go-to number. Woohoo!
But I mean, I know Monsters is a favorite here, and I
Well,
like.
here's the
too.
question. Well, that's the question. Is this episode better? Like on a level, not just from its infamy, but just like the level of like what Monsters does and what this does. Is it better than that? Because like I'm with Chris. Like Monsters Doing Maple Street is probably my favorite episode. So,
I mean, I gotta admit, just pure like watching, just like not critiquing it, just watching the episode for me personally, I think this one kind of like hits me harder. It's like, oh man, because it's got that banger of an ending kind of situation in it. It just pure carnal, like watching it, it's like, wow, yeah, that one's better. But admittedly, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street has a whole lot more to say than this episode does.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot we had a really long conversation about it. There's a lot to talk about with that episode and what it represents and what it puts out there. And I think there's definitely something to be said for that. That's what I was saying. Me, myself, just right. I would be like, yeah, number 3. Because I think The Shelter has a lot more to say than this episode as well.
Well, I even think
I'd be okay with between 3 and 5, 3 and 6. I don't think it's
kind of going that way
6. I don't think it should necessarily be lower than 3 because I still, obviously, The Invaders is my favorite, so I still think Invaders is better. But this is a fantastic episode. Eye of the Beholder and Invaders are top tier.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Only I would, gun to my head, I would probably put Shelter slightly above this, or like I would leave it at 3, just because like the way this one ends,
4?
like. Yeah.
Oh, you mean
so
leave
4,
The Shelter at
between
3?
4 and 6? Yeah, I'd probably go between 4 and 6.
I can see that because Shelter, like Monsters, has a lot to say about human nature and people.
Absolutely. And the one thing, and I agree, Monsters is a fantastic episode, and I know how much it means to you. But that last little bit where you've got the aliens doing their thing, and it makes sense within the episode, like front to back, top to bottom, this one just doesn't stop hitting you in the balls, you know?
I mean, that's what I always love.
I mean,
but there's 2 other people here, and obviously your views are very important.
3 other people.
Well, I already heard your the way you feel.
Wow.
And we basically agree, dude.
I don't
so,
count, I guess.
Of course you count, you dork.
See, I would put mine probably a little lower, but that's because, well, the first 5, 2 of those I know at least well in my head. How much I remember of it is, but the rest of them, I don't remember those, at least by the title. So I would put it at 6, just cause. That's the ignorance part though, or at least the.
Do you want to know the basics of like the kind of quote synopsis of those 5?
Sure. Well, not Invaders, because I'm gonna watch that one very soon. I want to go in completely blind.
No, understood.
Yeah, the shelter one is the episode where they think a bomb's going off and the one person has a shelter and they're trying to all break in.
The whole neighborhood's trying to break in, and everybody, they're all great friends, and then all of a sudden when the fit hits the shan, everybody turns against everybody. And everybody was calling him a fool for missing all the barbecues and stuff while he was building the shelter, and then all of a sudden they're like, let us in.
Death's Head Revisited is about a former Nazi general,
basically a doctor.
Doctor, he goes back to a concentration camp and gets visited by the ghost of the people who basically killed. Obsolete Man was the one where it was like 1984, where the guy's being tried. It had
Burgess Meredith,
where he's being tried because he's a author, a librarian, and they don't want books. And
fantastic explosion effect in the end.
Yeah, it's
the effect wasn't bad. The editing, that was a great, cool episode. Terrible editing. All of a sudden, it's like, wait, what just happened? I don't hold it against it though.
Walking Distance was like the 3rd episode. There's a 3rd episode of the series where the guy goes back to his childhood. Like he's travels a train and it lands in his childhood. I think Stop at Willoughby is like the one where Willoughby is like the
like 1890s
ambulance.
No, it's it's an 1890s. This guy falls asleep on the train. He keeps falling asleep, wakes up in this idyllic 1890s level town, and then it Willoughby is the name of the he thinks it's the name of the town, and he keeps trying to get back there, and then the ending is it kind of hits you in the face.
Yeah, he jumps off and dies on the train or whatever.
He thinks he's getting off a bridge or something.
No, he thinks that he's going to the town, and
yeah, and
Willoughby's like the ambulance or the coroner or whatever. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm with Chris. I would put this at number 6, but I'm just because I like the God. It's so hard.
That's what
I'm not opposed to that. I'm saying between 3 and 6,
like
and
either above
4
or
and 6,
below.
honestly.
Yeah, above or below monsters. So
I think it's better than Obsolete Man.
Agreed.
I'm really kind of like, there's a definite argument to be made for the other ones below that, but Obsolete Man, I do think it's definitely better than that one. But everything else under that, I'm kind of open.
So Trev, you would put it at number.
I would go
5?
between 4 and I would do between 4 and 6.
I'm honestly, the more we talk about it, leaning more towards 6 because I do think that the Shelter Death's Head Revisited I thought was good. I didn't think it was as great as you guys did. I thought it was solid though, but the Shelter and Monsters I think had a whole hell of a lot to talk about human nature and stuff like that. It was really
true,
really interesting conversations to be had there and what it was saying. And this one just didn't have that. This one was just kind of like a neat, oh, that's cool. So I would probably place them. I could see them going higher than this one.
I could do that. I'd be good with 6.
The number 6.
Yeah,
that sounds fine. Like I said, it's kind of like now we're top 10, so it's kind of cream of the crop thing. So
the cream always rises to the top.
Her chance to dream is ever so closer to 30. You must get it in the second half.
We have some I mean, season 4, you may get there. Maybe not, actually. So yeah, I think that's good. So with that said, new number 6 on our list is of course To Serve Man.
Woo-hoo.
Number 1 is still Eye of the Beholder. Number 89 is of course The Trouble with Templeton. Next episode is directed by Richard L. Bear again. I don't know
Nick.
this episode. Yeah.
What's number 72?
A piano
Is it 72
in
now?
the house.
Oh my god. It's actually 73 now. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Get it correct. Get it straight.
Number 73,
yeah.
a piano in the
The
house.
Oh my god. Speaking of
the part of the podcast off. That's all. They did that a long time ago. Moving on.
But speaking of like Rod Serling making fun of like another TV series, the next episode is season 3, episode 25, called The Fugitive, directed by Richard L. Bear, written by Charles Beaumont. Charles stars J. Pat O'Malley, Susan Gordon, Nancy Culp, and Wesley Lau. I don't know. Apparently, old man likes kids, something like that. I don't know. That's what Rod Serling said in the concluding portion. But we'll look forward. He's a monster.
Little, yellow, different.
He's a fugitive. So there you go. All right.
He's
so
on
with
the
that
search
said,
for a one-armed man.
yes, one-armed kid apparently. But anyways, with that said, we're going to head out. But before we do, audio feeds, of course, Anchor, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. But Chris, as always, it's awesome that you were willing to come on and talk to us. It's much appreciative. It's always awesome to talk to someone who loves the Twilight Zone as much as we do, because it's it's something that people love, but not as many people love that are younger than what I was expecting. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. But either way, thank you so much for coming on. And with that said, you have content, you have a great channel that you have been doing for about as long as I have at this point. I think about over 5 years now. So where's that content located?
Best place to find me, YouTube, Movies and Munchies. I'm also on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, but I suck at that. So really just find me on the YouTube, and then you can the YouTube. Oh my gosh, I'm like 75 years old now. Good Lord. Yeah, no. Yeah, just hit me up on YouTube. I love interacting in the comments. Movie and TV reviews, and sometimes snack reviews as well.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah, if you make bad comments, we'll send you to wherever the cremulence or cromulence or Cammonites are located. So
Well, you know where it is. It's our planet.
Dynamite.
Our planet.
Our planet.
yeah, don't come to our planet. Go to another planet. Get eaten by Cammonite.
Better than Q or R or Q or S planets.
There you
Our
go.
planet.
Absolutely.
Triv,
Yes.
you just released a video.
I?
Hallelujah. I think so. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, you just released
Did
a
I?
video. Yeah, in the last week or so. So that's awesome. You have content. Where is that located?
You can find my content in a weird theater in a dimension that's far, far away, and yet right down the street. Fine, you can find me on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I do random, obscure, straight up bad movies. Yeah, I just released one called Blood Theater. It's a fun little weird movie that was done in the 80s, and oh my god, there's some spangly camel toe that goes on, and it's just downright weird. So stop by, say hi, and look out for
There you
whooshy
go.
doors.
Jacob,
Yes.
you just finished your second series on video game consoles.
Woohoo.
And
I
it was awesome. And it makes me realize that the N64, it makes me feel old now because it's quite an old console at this point. What, 90, 95,
don't say that.
96?
That makes me feel real old.
I mean, what? Yeah, it was 20 or 30 years now since that console release. It's crazy. So
Give or take, yeah. Almost.
yeah, so
Bigger question: did it
Um,
make you feel all tingly?
Definitely, especially with the rumble pack inserted.
in the expansion pack. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Expansion.
But where's that content located?
You can find me on the YouTubes on the internet, and I have two channels. You can, if you're interested in movie reviews from me, you can look at Jacob Anders Reviews. Not uploading as much right now, taking a hiatus at the moment, and working on my Retro Jake XY channel, where I do long form retro video game console documentaries, I guess. Something like that. I talk a lot, like here, and about old stuff because I'm old. So yeah, I just recently did a 5-part series on the Nintendo 64, and those are all out, and the full long video is out. Go check that out and subscribe and like and bell notifications and Patreon and all that stuff. Yeah, do that. Trying to grow that.
Of Uranus.
And yeah, Uranus is.
We want to get Mari Povich on this show, so yeah.
I'm on Twitter too. Much like Chris said, I suck at it. I
Yeah.
really use it for like DMs and posting funny videos I see about random stuff around the world.
Yeah, so look forward to their content there. I am, of course, on all those YouTubes, and that's where this video posts. I'm also on like the Blue Skies and the Threads and the X's and whatever there's a thing for. I'm probably on at some point. Doesn't mean I actually look at them very often, but I'm like with these guys. I don't. Yeah, it's
Check out
kind of
Nick's
just
Truth
like
Social.
yeah, True Social, where I talk about how to serve man and all that good stuff. Yeah. So. Anyways, with that said, we're gonna head out for the time being until next week. And for myself, Triv, Jacob, and Chris, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out. Bye-bye. I had to get this podcast back in order to talk about eggs for the 3 hours.
You know what?
It was excellent.
3 eggs, because fuck you.
I'm still not 100% sure what that means.
Nope.
Where's the stop button? Damn it.
Hit the button.